That's what it looks like when a 6'6" man gets into a Mustang. So within daily driver, first thing is always comfort. What's it like to live with, sit in, drive, all that sort of stuff. So as far as like the seat and the ride and stuff, the seat's actually really comfortable. It's very tight. I'm a big guy and I have to sit in it in a specific way or else it's not comfortable. It kind of digs into the sides of my butt and my hips a little bit. So no, that's not a thing you want to hear with like an expensive car, is you need to sit in it in one way and one way alone. But I'm tall, I don't fit in a whole lot of cars anyway, so I live with it. All I gotta do is just tuck myself as far back into the seat as I can, have my legs straight out rather than kind of bowing at the knees a little bit, and I'm fine. It feels great. So for a really long ride to where, you know, I'm not moving very much, that could be a problem. But I doubt I'm gonna take this car on any cross-country trips anytime soon, so we'll just bar that as a possibility for now. So the other thing with the daily driver is, especially with the manual, you know, how heavy is the clutch, how stiff is the transmission, all of that's really comfortable. See, I came from a Subaru STI. I had a 2005, probably like 7 or 8 years ago, and then I had a 2015 for 3-ish years. The clutch was a little bit heavy for day-to-day traffic. The GT350, even though it has quite a bit more power, there's no real excuse to have a heavy clutch with a higher horsepower car, especially from the factory. The shifter is actually really similar to the Subaru. It's the Tremec 6-speed. It's really notchy, really positive engagement. I don't get any misshifts, anything like that. Occasionally, when I'm just starting up in the morning, or I'm at a stop and I'm getting in the car, it's hard to get it into first gear. So I shift my weight around in the car a little bit and I get it to pop in. But that's the only issue I have with the transmission. Living with, I don't do stop and go traffic. I don't live like in the city. I'm probably an hour north of Seattle. And if I was commuting down there, it might be a little bit more of a pain, but even still, the clutch is so light to where, you know, it doesn't really make a difference. Now, one thing I heard a lot of people complain about, and I shared the same view when I first bought the car, is that the clutch helper spring has this weird throw to it. The spring action is really heavy at the front part, and then it lightens up toward the end. And I don't know, I like a consistent feel all the way through the clutch travel, so I wasn't a fan of it at first, but I've owned it for about 4 months now, and I can tell you that I've completely forgotten all about it. I'm entirely used to it, and I don't even notice it at all. It doesn't bother me. So going from my Subaru, one thing that I gave up was versatility. I know with that car, I could pretty much take it anywhere. It was a little bit of a low car, so barring like extreme like rock climbing and stuff like that, I could take it up to a mountain, assuming I had the appropriate tires. Whereas this, even getting around town in some areas is a little bit difficult. So road noise around town is actually very livable. It's relatively quiet. Most cars are though at that speed, but as soon as you get up to about highway speeds, and right now I'm going about 52 miles an hour, you definitely get a lot more tire noise. They're really big tires, 305s in the rear, 295s in the front. They're going to make some noise, especially with the Michelin Pilot Sports. They're not the quietest tire in the world, and they're not supposed to be. It's supposed to be a performance car. You want to have that handling and reaction on the front end and the rear end, more so than a little bit more quiet. But it's completely livable. But talking about those wide tires, it leads me to ruts in the road. Now, with any car, any well-traveled freeway that hasn't been like updated, you have these big ruts in the road, right? In the center of the lane. And it causes your car to kind of move back and forth a little bit once you're in those ruts. So you either stay to one side of them, so you're on top of it rather than in the valley. And especially when it's wet out, because that'd be kind of dangerous. You'll be hydroplaning, all sorts of stuff. I've never driven a car that follows the ruts in the road as bad as this one. I'm sure if a cop was behind me at any point when I'm going through those ruts, especially if there's water in there. Oh man, it's terrifying actually. So I get having wide tires is going to cause that, you know, that to happen a little bit more, but still, there's no excuse for how bad this thing is with the ruts in the road. But driving this thing overall it's a pleasant experience. It engages you. It requires a little bit more attention, especially even, you know, mentioning it following those ruts in the road. I like a car that demands your attention, keeps your focus on driving, keeps your wits about you, your awareness levels high, that sort of thing. So it kind of brings out the best of you in that sense. All of the inputs are really nice. Like I was saying, the shifter, and the response you get from the car when you drive it is amazing too. Just downshifting sounds so good every time, and it's almost like you're taunting people around you, and in a sense you are. And you're always just tempted just to step on the gas a little bit. It sounds incredible. I can't think of one factory car, barring, you know, multi-$100,000 exotics, that sound as good as this does. Especially once you get up there in the RPMs. Good God. But the car doesn't need to be driven that way. You could cruise. You know, the Magna-Ride suspension is so good that it's not super harsh on the road. So talking about my old Subaru, my 2005 was super rough. I got mine at 40,000, took it all the way up to 85, and they had bad struts the entire way through. There's no point where it was good. They were clunky, they responded okay, but it was just a harsh ride. And the 2015 was even more of a stiffer ride, dampened better, but still, this car feels even tighter than the 2015 Subaru, and still it feels more comfortable. So the only thing that I can think of so far, as far as what I'm going to miss about my Subaru compared to this one, is if I had like a woodworking project, I can go grab lumber, fold down my second seat, and get an 8 feet piece of lumber and put it in the car. Fun fact for all of you people shopping for Subarus is that you can actually get like a decent amount of lumber in there. It's pretty funny. But this, there's no way I could do that. One, I feel the materials are, although they're not super expensive and super nice, they're better than the Subaru. So talking about that for a second, the interior and the build quality. The build quality is actually really nice. The things that you mainly look at, which is the steering wheel, the dash, the electronics and whatnot, the shifter, those all look great. The parts where it lacks are the hard plastics, like in the center console. It's a hard plastic that doesn't look great and doesn't feel great. This is a little bit softer to the touch. It still doesn't look all that great. And then you have some nice accents with the suede or Alcantara, whatever it is. But one big complaint that I have about this car is that all the things that you look at are decent and nice. However, like the steering wheel, yes, it's wrapped, it feels good, it's got leather at the bottom, it's D-shaped. However, the middle part, where it has the emblem, the thing that you stare at a lot, it looks kind of cheap. You know, it's got that hard plastic for the center part of the wheel. It just looks cheap. And a big thing that people forget to look at when they're kind of feeling out a new car, it's visibility. Visibility is a big thing. There are some drawbacks because I'm really tall, so the roof line gets in the way of any stoplight. So if I'm at the line, I can't see the light. I have to bend down to see the light tree. The other thing is if you're at a four-way stop, anyone coming from the right-hand side is completely blocked by the rear view mirror. That's more of an issue for me being tall than it is really the car's fault. The one thing that I can say is the car fault is visibility. It is a coupe, I get that. When I look to the left and the right, there is a big blind spot. Even if you are looking, you really have to turn your head around to eliminate that blind spot. Because when you're living with something day to day, you want like technology in the car. You know, it's not needed, but it just makes life a lot easier. This has Sync 3, which the navigation is great and everything, but I think it's still inferior to Android Auto, which this supports. And the stereo is actually really good too. You know, I like listening to music. Wasn't as good as my Subaru. I had a limited edition, so it was just a little bit more, I don't know, rich. Higher highs, lower lows, that sort of thing. This is good, not amazing, but it gets the job done. It took a little bit of adjustment out of the box to get it working right, but what does any of it matter when you have 5.2 liters of V8 that rose out to 8,200? One thing about this car is that the gears are really long. You've got so much RPM band to play with, and man, you can get into trouble real fast. Second or third gear goes, you know, over 100 miles an hour. So you can't even get it into it on public roads without really breaking some laws. So to give a reference for speed, see the speedometer. So as you can see, you can get out of hand pretty fast. You wouldn't imagine like a 5.2 liter V8 would feel gutless, you know, in the lower RPMs, but it kind of does. So 2,000 RPM, you know, I'm flooring it right now. That's in fourth gear. So it's almost like those sport bikes, those like 600cc bikes. Really got to rev them out to get the power out of them. Everyone loves an on-ramp champ, right? For car people, we need something that excites the senses. And in all reality, there's really no reason that the GT350 can't be a daily driver, unless you have a passenger requirement or some large storage requirement. For the scope of my work, I can easily make do. However, if I have a kid or change careers, all that could drastically change. But for the basics, like getting groceries, going to events with my girlfriend, or taking little trips out of town, it works great. And I enjoy those tasks while in the car. The only time where I'm afraid to drive it is in the snow, and that should scare me. It's loud, brutish, anxious, fun, and scary all at the same time. But it does so with enough refinement where I can enjoy it nearly all the time, and that's what it's really all about. Welcome to my carport. Just want to say thank you to everyone who subscribes. Really means a lot to me. I've been on that grind to get 1,000 subscribers so I can keep my YouTube partner status. For those of you who don't know, YouTube is changing the requirements to where you have to have a certain amount of watch hours, and then also you have to have 1,000 subscribers in order to keep getting paid for making content. So I'm just under 600 right now at the making of this video, and I have till February 20th to get it to 1,000. So here's to you guys helping me out. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I hope you enjoy this video. I don't know if you guys can see. If you live in Washington, you'll know this pain. Look how dirty this car is. I literally washed it 2 days ago. And this is what happens.